This is Two Skis Walk Into a R. I'm Ray.
And I'm Brian.
And this little vignette is about loops, which can be a useful thing depending on the circumstance. So to kick this off, I loaded in some old Loyola Beach data from a previous semester. And this data has so many things. We've got section, we've got team names, but importantly, we've got habitat, which are like lawn, dune, or prairie. And in addition, I had calculated the insect species richness and the plant species richness. If I had done a better job, I probably would have called this plant SR, not just SR. But forgive me for that transgression. So I could very easily make a plot of, so here's my data frame. And I'm going to do my Y value first, which I think is going to be insect species richness, because I'm thinking that that's the dependent variable. And Loyola.df, and then I'm going to do plant species richness as my predictor. And we should be able to look at that. Oh, yep, there it is. Fair enough. But suppose, Brian, I wanted to do this separately for each of the habitat types.
Yeah, you could do a subset function.
Yep.
You could then plot out each of those subsets. It's a lot of code.
Yep.
It takes a lot of time.
Yep.
And it's not really efficient.
Yep.
And so as we're always trying to do in R, is we're trying to become more efficient, faster, less work. That equals great.
Excellent. So, okay. So this is the deal. There's a few different kinds of loops, but for will do most of the work that you might need to do. And the way it works is you say for, and then in parentheses, you make up some variable, and I'm going to just make up the variable I. It could be anything. And then the word in, and then you have some vector of values. And let me just demonstrate before we get too far. I'm going to just make 1, 2, 3 bongos and 100. Just a random vector of some stuff. And then you put the curly braces, and then anything that happens inside the curly braces is inside your loop. And the basic idea is that inside, each time the loop runs, I is going to take on a different value in this vector. So if I just do print I, check this out. Hit run. It printed out because each time it went through, it took on the value 1, then 2, then 3, then bongos, then 100. It printed that out.
Cool.
Yeah. So more useful for our purposes would be a vector of the habitat names, right? Remember we had lawn, dune, and prairie? Wouldn't that be nice if I had a little vector in there, and then we could do some cool stuff?
So as you will see, the vector for the habitat name is going to be repeated information, but we have 3 different levels, so it's a factor.
Right. Let me just show you this cool. There's a function called unique, which will give you just a list of the unique values in any vector. So if I do my Loyola.df $habitat, check this out. It gives me those 3, lawn, dune, and prairie. So I can copy this bit of code. I'm going to copy that, and I'm going to paste it here. Paste. Now when I run this loop, that I value is going to take on any of those things that we just had, right? So lawn, dune, and prairie. That's pretty cool. We're getting to somewhere useful.
We can.
And so now we could do a subsection. I'm going to make a little tiny data frame, and we'll do subset. And remember that the subset uses the data frame, and then we want to subset on where habitat equals, and it's a logical equals, so it's equals I. So that means that we're going to, so the first time it goes through, I is going to be lawn, and so when the habitat equals lawn, that's going to be our subset. Second time, I is going to be dune, and so when habitat equals dune, that's going to be our subset, and then finally prairie. So that's pretty cool.
So what can we do with that, Ray?
I'll show you. We could actually just copy this bit of code and paste it down here, but instead of the full data frame, I'm going to have this little tiny data frame that I'm subsetting. And then just to make everything real nice, I can, remember you can title your graph with the argument main, and I'll just make that equal to I. So the first time the title is going to be lawn, the second time it's going to be dune, and the third time it's going to be prairie. Let's just run that tidy little bit of code. I'm going to clear out all of my plots so we have a blank slate. Check this out. Hit run. Boom. We've got one graph for the prairie. We've got another graph for the dune. And we've got another graph for the lawn.
Wow, that's really useful.
It is really useful. And you could not only could you have plotting, but you could have like statistical, like you could have an LM function in there to do a regression, or you could have all your assumption checking stuff and your summary output. You could load a bunch of stuff inside these curly brackets, and it will do that analysis for each of those habitat types. And it doesn't even have to be habitat types, right? Like we could have this be section. So I remember there are different sections. Mm-hmm. So now we would change that to section. And now see what happens. Run. We had the Thursday section. That's what they found. We had the Wednesday section. That's what they found. And we even had a Tuesday section. That's what they found. So on and on and on. Super useful. Looptastic.
Looptastic.